I have taken 2 screenshots, so
I think
hopefully
we
one
are
of them works.
live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. We were just doing a little screenshot of the new team. So if you haven't seen us before, uh, Jen and Sharon moved on to new jobs, and very, very sad for us, and probably for you as well if you've been watching them over the years. And today we have Francisca on, who was also here. Is this your first time on with us, Francisca?
Yeah, it's my first time.
Oh, so welcome. We're so excited to have you. And we have some new other people that might sporadically join us here. Anyway, our topic for today is, it's July 11th, which for me, it was always so hard to think about school in summer. Not only was it hard, I just didn't want to. Like, I wanted it to be summer and carefree. But the truth is, if you have a kid transitioning into middle school, that is the roughest transition. And now is a really good time to talk about how are you going to help make that transition easier for your kid. So the reason it's the very biggest transition of all transitions in formal education K through 12 is because they go from this like one teacher knowing them and loving them and caring about them emotionally to a day of different teachers. And that landscape looks so entirely different for our kids. The expectations of jumping from sixth grade coursework to so much executive function having to be set in place, but that transition not always happening so smoothly. Anyway, so we've talked about this before in terms of high school, but I think some of the advice from elementary school to middle school would be the same. And one of the tips that I started, I don't know if I came up with a solution, but I knew the lunchroom was a rough one. That was like a really worrisome place for kids because you might not have lunch the same time as your friend. Like you go into a new school, you're already nervous, and you have a bunch of people also going into that new school, and a handful of them are the people that are your people, and you might end up not with them. So coming up with a strategy for what do you do in the lunchroom on the first day of school? And your kid might not be worried about it, so it's always good to ask them what they're worried about. But if they are, it's like, you know, I mean, I think you don't encourage them to bypass the stress because that's like everyone's on a level playing field and everyone's anxious. But how do you navigate that lunchroom, like going in and looking for somebody getting there early or late, whichever one makes your kid more comfortable, but having a conversation about you've got this because we have a plan and you're going to be able to do it. And I feel like Mindy's going to have an actual strategy. So mine is a conversation because I couldn't remember my actual strategy. So I'm going to pass it to Mindy.
Oh, thanks, Suze. Put me on the spot. No, I was actually agreeing with you. I think with my kids, it was always, who am I going to sit with at lunch? What am I going to do if I don't have if none of my friends or none of my friends are in my lunch period? And that's a really tough one. What can you do? And I think the issue is, I mean, the solution might be just really advocating, encouraging your child to make a new friend. Go sit with the friend. We would always say, look around the lunchroom. There's going to be someone else sitting by themselves. So find that kid. You may not know them, or you may have known them and not been their friend before. But we always encouraged our kid to look for the other kid who's kind of looking around or seems hesitant and ask them to sit. And I think that's really tough, especially if your child is shy. But that was, what else can you do, right? They have to take that step. The other thing that our middle school did, which I don't know if every middle school does this, but I thought it was very helpful. They had a day or two before the kids came in, found their lockers, and ran through their schedule. Jessica's shaking her head, yes, because she was at the same school system as my children were. But I think that was really helpful. And they moved from class to class to class, right, Jessica? Did you find that helpful? Yeah. And I think that gave them the sense they kind of got to know some kids in their class. They kind of got to know some kids in the lunchroom because you did all those periods. So I think if there's an opportunity for you to do that, if the school doesn't do it, maybe you could do it on your own or with an older sibling. I think that's really helpful. So Jessica, anything to add? You're shaking your head, nodding there. I appreciate
Yeah,
the validation.
I was really just gonna say, like, the run through, I think when I was going into middle school was really helping, especially having an older brother, which I know isn't exactly like a fun tip or trick. Like it's probably too late to get an older brother for your kid, but maybe if you have like, you know, like their friend's older sibling or some older kid that's already kind of been through the rigmarole. I don't know, they usually have a lot of insight and are happy to be the experts on the subject, going through and being like, that teacher was pretty cool. That teacher wasn't very nice to me. Like all the different, like they know all the ins and outs. They'll probably be willing to share with somebody going in for the first time. So again, if you can't find an older sibling for your kid that quickly, you can probably find the older sibling of, an adjacent kid. I'm going to pass it down. How about to Kamara?
Hi, middle school. For our youngest, it was junior high, which is 7th and 8th instead of middle. For our older boys, it was middle school, the traditional middle school that we have nowadays. I'm going to tell you how our family felt about it. So our youngest, when it was time to go back to school post shutdown for everybody was going back in the country full time, he was lamenting about the kids who spent junior high or middle school virtually. He was like, that's no good. He's like, middle school is brutal but necessary, and now they're being dropped into high school. When I went to a junior high parent meeting and they were, asking questions, and parents had all these thoughtful questions and emotional questions, and I was like, can we drop them off on the first day and then pick them up 2 years later? Because I was like, oh, this is going to be fun for everyone. I adore the variety. The kids are like, they'll be the same age, and one is this tall and one is this tall, and one's really mature and has flown by themselves and had layovers, and the other one has never been on the city bus by themselves. It's just, to me, it's adorable, and they're all the same age. And they're all learning about themselves in this pressure cooker of a junior high. Our family is not alone at the school our kid just graduated from. It's K through 12. It's actually pre-K through 12. And the junior high is separate because they're so special that they can't be near. They rather have the high schoolers near the little kids than the junior high schoolers near them, because they just need their own time. For parents, my advice is go with it. Just go with it. There's going to be highs and lows. On one day, you will be cuddling in front of TV watching an animated film, and in the same day, we'll be having a sex talk with your child. Just go with it. You will be continuously shocked. And for the kids, my advice is, it seems like everybody else has it figured out, but they don't. And that's life advice. It will always seem like everybody else has it figured out except for you. And the truth is, nobody has it figured out. We all think that the other people have it figured out, and we don't. We're all lost. And if you're honest about it in a safe environment, you'll be okay. And try new things, because junior high, middle school is all about new things. So go ahead. Don't be scared. Try it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you do, yay, you found something new. I'm going to send it over to Melissa.
So, hi, everyone. I think I'm in a little bit of a unique situation because my kids went to the same junior high that I went to. So, and actually there were one or two of the same teachers that I had. So that was interesting. And I'm old, so those teachers were young when I was there. We also have a day where the kids walk through their schedule. And I think that's wonderful because they get to see other like friends that they haven't seen, or maybe like peripherally friends that they haven't seen, and they just get excited and talk to each other. And it's like just a little touchstone, so they're not so nervous going back. So we went through their schedule. We made sure that they had enough time to get to each classroom. And tried to find out the best shortcuts and stairways. We also looked for the bathrooms. Like, that's hugely important. And made sure they knew where the nurse's office was and the main office. We looked for their locker, and we talked about like timing, like, if you have a classroom, if you have a class at one end of the building and then the next one is at the other end of the building, maybe that's not the best time for you to go visit the bathroom. Like maybe, just so that they wouldn't get into this situation where they're late for their next class. We talked about strategies. We also found out where the lunchroom was and different places, like where they would buy their food. Basically, I made sure they knew how to drive around their area. They knew the directions, because I know that causes a lot of anxiety, at least in my family. For friends, we had like, I just made sure they had practice over the summer, meeting strangers and making friends. Like one of them had a really terrible elementary school experience. She was bullied, and we were so happy for her to go to middle school and make new friends. The other one had a fantastic elementary school experience, had like friends forever, and then got to middle school and suddenly the friend forever was no longer a friend. So, that was hard, but it all worked out, and they are wonderful, well-adjusted kids. So even if you have disasters of like junior high experiences, middle school experiences, I just want to let you know that it'll turn out okay. Everything is going to be good, and they'll be more resilient for it. So, yeah. Okay, I'm passing it on to Francisca, because I know you have a very different experience.
Yes, I do. Hi, everybody. Well, so I have two very different experiences. First, I went to school in Germany, so my school system was completely different. Generally, in Germany, you go to elementary school, and then starting with 5th grade, you stay in the same school until the end of high school. So, so there is a big difference there. And also the school day, I think it's different now, but when I went to school, the school day ended at 1. So there was no issue we didn't have lunch at school. We went home and had lunch. So we didn't have all the lunchroom drama that I hear about, Now, here my kids are homeschooled, so that makes it a completely different experience. However, there is still a change, I feel like, when they go into middle school, because at that point, at least in my case, I couldn't teach everything anymore. So we had to kind of open, let other teachers in, and kind of, our day all of a sudden started to look very different, because it was not just me being in charge, but now we had to have other teachers, because it was during COVID, it was online. So that was also very different, but all of a sudden our day was not longer just ours, so to speak, but now we had to kind of have other classes, other times, other people's feedback, and to kind of slowly make this transition, which, I thought was really good. I think we see some of the same issues. Both of my daughters are dance a lot, so we see the same social dynamics at dance. We actually had just yesterday a conversation about a sleepover, and my husband was running through all these questions like, what do you do when somebody brings alcohol? And my daughter was like, nobody would ever do this. And we were both like, that's nice. Whoever just mentions it in terms of having this kind of younger, cuddlier kid, and then, the next day you have the sex talk. And I feel like that's what we're going through all the time. But I thought it was just funny to hear answers to some of these questions, if this was like, how could this ever happen? And then others like, oh yeah, we talked about this. So
Okay. So I close up Francisca, because you might not know that. So I'm going to pass it to Kamira to tell us about her interview for tomorrow. But before we do that, I just want to say that one of the things, Kamira touched on this a little bit, but middle school is all about exploration for our kids. which means that we are always caught off guard. Like yesterday, they were vegetarian and they would like look at you with evil eyes if you ate a piece of chicken. And then the next day, they would like a steak. So it's like you have to figure out how to roll with nothing to rely on, which for me, so hard for me. I really like routine. I like control. I lost it all in middle school because you just never knew who was showing up. And in retrospect, and knowing so much more because of working at your teen, it's really important for them to put on these different facades and test out who do they want to be. And sometimes that person is even mean, and it's still okay. It doesn't mean they get a free pass, but it's still okay because what they're testing is, do I want to live in the world like that? And so just a little word to the parents, like it's a little bit of a roller coaster in those years.
And Sue, just to jump on that, that's such an excellent point. And now that I'm thinking more, they will also test you. Like as everyone's talking, all of my kids, it was like, where is this coming from? But, they test boundaries, I think, and their identities and, different things. But I think they also, that's the time of testing parents and how far can I push them? And my friends are doing this. And so, I'm not, it just is a whole different experience, I think, for our kids and the parents. So be prepared because testing all over the place.
Yeah. And I would say, Mindy, that while we're talking about all the challenges and opportunities for growth in our kids, it's really there for us as well. Because if you don't kind of maybe let go of some of the expectations you had earlier, there's going to be so many battles. But if you can find a place for yourself where you just say, I'm going to try to chill on this a little bit, even if it's just for the beginning of 6th grade or whatever you allow yourself, whatever you say, it's, I don't know, pick your battles. That's it. Okay.
Buckle your seatbelt. I always like to say, buckle your seatbelt.
Yeah, that's a great one.
It'll be a ride.
Yeah. And there's delicious in all of this. So, know that if you like the roller coaster when it drops, you're going to have a lot of those. And if you're someone who likes it going up, you're going to have a lot of those. Just roll with it. Kamira, who you're interviewing tomorrow?
Tomorrow I have Beth Thomas. She has spent her career working with girls, especially teenage girls, and she's going to talk to us about what we want to know, what we need to know about girls, what girls want us to know. She has been a Girl Scout troop leader. She has started this magazine. I think it's called This Girl's Story Mag, and it's going to be a good conversation. So if you're a girl mom or dad or grandparent, or if you have all boys and you don't understand the girl thing, you need to come and listen tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time.
And you can find it on Facebook Live, on our LinkedIn account, on our Twitter account, and on our YouTube account. So go to any of those places, or all of them if you want to have surround sound. Okay, everybody, have a great week. Thanks for being here with us.